everyone, welcome to my first author review. Now, I have so many books I want to review and tell you guys about that I've already read, but there would just be too many. Literally, I'd be posting a video every day that would be a review and everyone would get bored. So I thought, why not do something called an author review, which is when I've read lots of books by the same author, I kind of do a bundle review. So I haven't read all of this author's works, but I have read a lot, and so I want to give you guys quick reviews about them all. So first, who am I reviewing? Well, you've probably seen by the title. I'm going to be doing a Schwab review. I love her. I think she is one of my favourite authors of all time. I literally have a whole shelf dedicated to her and her books and her merchandise. I think Schwab is the writer I want to be, and I just think she is amazing. So let's get on to the video. So the books of Schwab that I haven't read yet are her children's series, City of Ghosts and Tunnel of Bones. I recently bought these, but I will be reading them soon. I have also not read Our Dark Duet and This Savage Song, which I will be reading soon, and there's a theme here, and that is it for books of hers that I haven't read. I haven't read her short story, I do not have it, and if there's anything else, then, oh, I bought this, which I haven't read yet. Well, I don't know, I just got it because it looks pretty much, but yeah, I haven't read this yet. But I have read, here we go, I have read the whole A Dark Shade of Magic series, The Near Witch, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I finished recently and I'm still recovering from that ending, and the first book in the Villain series. So I've read Vicious, but I haven't read Vengeful. Okay, so first off, I think her writing is amazing. I love how with each book it is completely different. They're, like, with some authors, all their books are kind of similar, but hers are just so different, and the writing improves with every single one. Reading The Near Witch, which was her first published book, was really interesting to me because it showed how much her writing has grown, and reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue pretty quick after I finished The Near Witch was fascinating because they're her first and last published books, and she has improved so much. She is phenomenal, and the fact that she's also writing like screenplays for her books and everything is just, it blows my mind. She works so hard, and I really do recommend following her on Instagram because she has some amazing live streams that she does. I don't know if she does them anymore, but she did them during lockdown and I was so inspired. She's just so talented. So yeah, I pretty much love all her books, spoiler alert, but let's go through them. So the first one we have is A Dark Shade of Magic, which is the first Schwab book I ever read, and I recently listened to the audiobook and it was really good. I was actually really impressed. I loved this series so much. The way the world building and the magic is set up is phenomenal. The way she explains it as well. So there's like 4 different Londons, each with a different amount of magic in, and only Kel, who's an Antari, and one other person can travel between them. That's the premise of the world building, and it is solid. It is so good. The 2 main characters, Lila Bard, I want to be her. Like, in a different life, I want to be Lila Bard because she is so cool. She's really hardened around the edges. She makes the most hilarious comments to Cal, and they're just a very unlikely pairing, but their bond is so strong and it just brings me so much joy. I love them together so much. And the book series is really good. I wasn't a huge fan of the second book. I remember I read this like a year ago or something. The second book, yeah, I struggled with it a bit. It just was a bit slower, but the third book picked up again and it was incredible. It's a really, I would love to say it's character based because the characters are one of the strongest elements, but the world building is also really strong. It's very fantasy, and it's kind of, it jumps into new adult. I feel like at the beginning it could be young adult, but then I think it's the third book that I was like, okay, this is new adult. So that is just something to consider if you don't like more violence, swearing, that kind of stuff. You may want to stay away from this book, but it is incredible. The royalty, the characters, it's just everything about it is perfect, and I will probably listen to the audiobook of the second and third book at some point because it's so good. So yeah, really recommend it. Next, let's talk about, I can't talk about Vengeful because I haven't read it, and I have heard that it's not as good as Vicious, which makes me worried because I loved Vicious. It was very different. It was, it's pretty much all about supervillains, like about these really awful people with powers, and it tells a story of how they got the powers, which was amazing. The flashbacks were one of my favourite things. The way the timelines kind of intertwined was fascinating, and I literally spent most of this book just going, I want to write like this. Like, one day I want to write like this. And something that I really took away from this was you can tell how smart Schwab is through her characters. You can just tell. It's a book that pushes you, and I love that. The characters are just brilliant. They're not likeable, like they are not at all. They are awful, but they're just the best. Like anti-heroes. I love it. So yeah, I really, really recommend this book. I can't recommend the series yet because I haven't read the second book, but it was a really, really strong plot. A lot of seeking revenge, which I think we all secretly love. Next we have The Near Witch, which was a beautiful, quick read. I read it on holiday, and it was just absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed it. It was very different. It was quite spooky. It wasn't dark in the way that you first think. It's like a haunted kind of dark. There's lots of supernatural things going on. I was never really sure what was going to happen next, but it followed a really nice straight timeline, unlike Vicious that jumped everywhere. So it was a really easy read. The writing, you could see how she's improved, but it was still really good, even though it was her first book. The characters were strong. They didn't have much to kind of hook me to them, but they were really good in the context of the story, and I really liked it. It was a simple, cute read that also creeped me out parts, and the injustices in this world really angered me. And finally, we've got The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I finished recently, and I was sobbing. I really recommend the audiobook. I say as I have 2 physical copies and 1 on the way, but I really recommend the audiobook. It takes the writing to a whole new level, and I don't know, I struggled to connect to the emotional side of the writing, and then I listened to the audiobook and it literally had me crying within 5 minutes. Like, it just makes that extra bond. What can I say? It's perfect. It's perfect. The writing is poetic and lyrical. It's a story that will hook you. It's very relatable. The feelings, the kind of worry of being forgotten, and the fear of never being loved, and all this stuff that is just covered throughout the book. It hits you hard, and the ending is perfect but heartbreaking. So I absolutely loved it, but I was sobbing on my bed for 30 minutes after finishing this book. So take this with caution. Don't read this book if you're someone who doesn't like crying to books. This book will make you cry, but it is stunning. It's one of the best pieces of writing I have read ever. So this is my author review of V. Schwab. I hope you enjoyed it. If there's any other authors that I've read some of their books, tell me and I will do an author review of them. I'm thinking Veronica Roth, Leave a Do Go, maybe even John Green, although that's not going to be a positive one, trust me, I'm not a huge fan of John Green. So I'm just building up the courage to film that one because I know people are going to get mad. Yeah, and so if you have any suggestions on authors you want me to review, let me know in the comments.